Raw. They left the gate open, you know.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn the beat back.
Oh, Street Fighter V, you weird inconsistent little thing you. On one hand, you slap us with a smelly pair of underpants as you run a few fan favourite characters into the ground. On the other, you caress our cheek lovingly as you whisper sweet words of nostalgia into our ears. One minute we're throwing each other out the house, the next minute we're banging on the porch. What a bizarre relationship we have. After 3 years of this game doing its thing, I still honestly don't know where to stand with it. I want to hate you for the stupid things you've done, but then you do something sweet and I can't help but respect you for it. Case in point, the story arc for a one Mr. Cody Travers. You could have butchered his continuity like you've done with Ibuki, or you could have shortchanged the character from achieving a satisfying conclusion like you did with Charlie, but you didn't. You pushed the character onto greater things and grander ideals like you done with Sakura. I'm so proud. I'm surprised as hell, but I'm so damn proud of you. This is crazy. For those that don't know, Cody began life as one of the main playable protagonists in an old school side-scrolling beat-em-up called Final Fight. The game intended to be a direct sequel to the original Street Fighter before getting rebranded prior to its release in 1989. Despite the rebrand, the universe of Final Fight and Street Fighter would be shared, and characters from either series could appear in each other's games. Cody would make his first leap into the Street Fighter series by the time Alpha 3 released in 1998, before reappearing again for Super Street Fighter 4 in 2010. During these two appearances, Cody had drastically changed from the character he was in Final Fight. He was no longer presented as a street-level vigilante hero, but now a deadbeat criminal. Capcom's change in direction with him initially left the younger 1998 version of myself confused by their decision, though as time went on I grew to appreciate the arc they had been painting for Cody. I found it to be an interesting turn of events for him. All I wanted to see was where they were going with it. I mean, they couldn't keep him in this rut forever, could they? It surely had to be going somewhere. And here in 2018 for Street Fighter V Season 3, can we finally see where this arc has taken him.
You should probably expect spoilers.
Cody Travers grew up in Metro City. Despite the place being overrun by gangs, to Cody it was home and he loved his home. He loved his home so much he wanted to do something about the skyrocketing crime rate, and since he could throw a decent punch, he decided to beat down punks for a living. He was incredibly good at it too. Unfortunately, his good deeds caught the attention of Mad Gear, the most notorious gang in the city. Naturally, they weren't taking too kindly to his heroics. They also weren't taking too kindly to Mayor Mike Haggar's political war on organised gang crime and figured they should do something about both problems, so they kidnapped Mayor Haggar's daughter Jessica, who just also happened to be Cody's girlfriend. By holding Jessica hostage, they attempted to extort Haggar for political gain in the government, as well as blackmail Cody into joining them. Yeah, that sounds like a solid plan. Shame it didn't work. Instead, the complete opposite happened, with Haggar and Cody teaming up to take on the whole bloody gang in one go and put an end to their foolishness. Cody also brought a really efficient ninja along for the ride too, so Mad Gear were pretty much screwed from the get-go. Upon defeating Mad Gear and saving Jessica, Cody decides it would be for the best for the pair of them to spend some time apart. Cody claims he cannot rest until all the gangs in the city are cleared out. He also doesn't want to risk Jessica's life again either, so at his request, they put their relationship on hold, despite how much they clearly loved each other. Unfortunately, the rekindling of their relationship didn't happen. On his quest to obliterate the other gangs, Cody developed a thirst for combat. He loved it. He reveled in it. Something about street fighting got his blood pumping, and before he knew it, he couldn't stop himself. Rather than just looking for crime to combat, Cody began looking for combat in general, starting fights wherever he could to get his kicks, literally and figuratively. Cody would eventually be arrested for his reckless actions, becoming a convict and serving time in jail. This fall from grace would in turn affect his bond with Jessica, who had become so disappointed in Cody that she didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. Jessica left Metro City and Cody behind when she moved to Europe, officially ending their involvement with one another. This would begin Cody's most self-destructive arc of his story. As a disgraced hero with no city to save and no love interest to protect, Cody accepted the fact that he was now a criminal and settled into his new prison life. Fights were plentiful in prison, but he found no enjoyment in them. He needed to get back out onto the streets to find a real challenge, so that's what he done. During a riot, Cody broke out of prison by literally punching through the bloody wall and went for a merry old stroll around the ends, clapping some heads along the way. This actually became somewhat of a regular thing for Cody, seeing as prison couldn't hold him and he would break out often to satiate his craving for a street fight. On most occasions, he would even return to his cell on his own without needing to be hunted down. By the end of it, the police were probably just letting him do what he wanted anyway. It's on a couple of these breakouts that he ends up running into his old friend Guy, the efficient ninja I mentioned earlier. Guy tries to reform Cody in an attempt to get him back to his old self, but to no avail, much to Guy's disappointment.
Profound sadness.
It seemed for a long time Cody was content with this mundane existence. He no longer lived for anybody or anything, simply just fighting when he needed a fix, and then doing nothing in between those moments. He likely would have stayed in this rut too had it not been for one particular person. Mike Hagar, the mayor of Metro City. Knowing the boy well, and knowing there was more to him than a soulless husk of a fallen hero, Hagar cleared Cody of all his past crimes, released him from prison, and handed him the keys to the city by making him the new mayor. Sorry, he made him the new mayor. That's a bit of an overextended helping hand, isn't it? You didn't need to go that far. Like, you could have just taken him out of the pen and put him on some community service. Get him to wipe the pigeon crap off the buses or something. Jesus. Of course, there was a good reason for this decision, despite how extreme it seemed. Hagar played into Cody's love for Metro City, knowing that despite how indifferent Cody appeared to be, there was still a longing inside of him to protect the place he called home. Shoving Cody into such a high-level position would not only give the boy something important to focus on, but also force him to reform. So, did it work? Fucking hell, did it work? Look at him, my man's busting a waistcoat now. Got his hair gelled back and everything. Go on, rude boy.
Visual design.
Unlike some characters who had their designs altered for no good reason, Cody's various wardrobe changes have been handled with care and are fitting to those different moments of his life. In fact, they actually help to pinpoint each of his individual arcs. It's almost like having a visual bookmark for the character when you look over his entire storyline. Beginning with the first version of Cody seen in Final Fight, this guy came equipped with the white t-shirt, blue jeans and sports shoes combo. I mean, bruv, this look started a clothing trend. I'm serious. You had every white dude rocking it back then, from my Streets of Rage homeboy Axel Stone to Slim Shady, who was the real Slim Shady but clearly copycatted the outfit. It's a simple as hell design. I mean, you could cosplay this on a budget of £10 and still have change left over for an expensive coffee. I like it too. It's grown to be something of an iconic look for the side-scrolling beat-em-up genre, and it's nostalgic to me personally. When I see outfits of a similar design appear in indie homage games like The Takeover, it makes me feel a little bit warm and fuzzy inside. For as straightforward as the design may be, the look is associated with Cody's early life of being a badass street-level vigilante and his rise to fame in Metro City. The next step in Capcom's direction would be to tear away that status from him, and what better way to do that than by making him a criminal. With the prison outfit, Capcom made sure you understood just exactly how far Cody had fallen from his pedestal as a hero. They specifically wanted you to see him as a convicted criminal too. None of this wrongly accused or on the run from the law kind of thing. No, this was a sharp change in Cody's life and it needed to be impactful, so they wrote an arc that firmly placed the character in prison, complete with a uniform that one would expect from such a place. To take that level of status away from Cody and throw him so deep into the gutter was a bold move on Capcom's part, but one that ultimately worked. He looked like crap. And I don't mean that his design was bad, I mean he literally looked like he was down on his luck and bored with his life. His eyes were droopy and tired, he didn't keep himself clean shaven with rough stubble poking out of his chin now. Even his body language and the way he carried himself looked fed up and sluggish. He wasn't the same Cody at all. One of the most interesting things to point out about this particular design is the inclusion of the handcuffs. It's been noted that Cody is somewhat of a powerhouse, and I guess if you had the ability to tear down an entire criminal organization with only your fists and two of your brethrens, then yeah, you're one powerful son of a bitch. As such, Cody, who is easily able to break out of a cell by literally punching through the walls, decides not to break out of a flimsy pair of handcuffs. The reason being is that he believes by keeping them on, he is getting a greater challenge out of his opponents by handicapping himself. Which is fair enough if you're some kind of masochist. I mean, do your thing, Cody, innit? I ain't gonna judge you. But the handcuffs are also good from a visual design perspective as they highlight the fact that he is a criminal now. This item, along with the prison uniform, constantly reminds us of the life he's currently living. So even if he could break out of the cuffs, I believe it says more about the character's current status if he keeps them on. It drives the point home better than if he were to not wear them. Just like his first outfit, this design is again very straightforward, but it does precisely what it needs to in establishing the stage that Cody's life is at, and where he is at is rock bottom. But from rock bottom, you can only go up. This brings us neatly to Street Fighter V, which is where we see Cody go through another drastic change yet again, and this time for the better. Haga has gotten Cody out of prison and thrown him into such an important role that he knows he has to make a real effort now. It's time to fix up and look sharp. Cody is looking fresher than ever. He carries himself so well now, holding his head up high while smiling as he walks with a swagger. Even when he gets irritated, there's still a sense of carefree energy about his body language, and he takes everything in stride. The suit itself is worn very tidily, keeping shirts tucked in and buttons done up. He's even rocking a tie with it, so Cody is always looking on point and ready for the next spur of the moment meeting. That said, he's not wearing a formal jacket though, meaning he still values his comfort, knowing a blazer would hold him down a little too much, and he likes to keep things more open. This is doubled up by the fact that he's rolled his sleeves up, letting his arms catch the air and breathe a bit. He's become a very smart looking dude, the smartest he's ever appeared, but he will compromise the outfit slightly for the sake of his freedom. He may be a man of the office now, but you can never take the streets out of the man. The whole design is comprised of various shades of blues and navies, with some slight splashes of oranges and browns for the tie and waistcoat. I probably would have simplified the tie in some regard, but that's honestly all I would change about him. Everything else in this design is great, from the pinstripe shirt and trousers to the absolute boss man waistcoat. Out of the 3 designs, this is the most complex outfit Cody has worn so far. Symbolic actually, considering how straightforward his life was originally when he wore the older costumes, and here he was now dealing with a confusing, demanding political life represented by this detailed formal wear. It goes hand in hand with what I said earlier about all these designs being bookmarks for his life story, and in turn I like all of these different versions of him. Each design perfectly highlights where Cody was at during that stage, and they clearly document a rising hero's fall from grace, only to rise up again and move on to even greater things.
Personality.
Cody started out as a hot-blooded dude wanting to see some justice done for his city, and he clearly had the vigour to dish it out himself. As such, he took things very seriously with little time for joking around. He wasn't closed off from displaying affection though, showing us his softer side when he rescued Jessica and the two of them shared a heartfelt moment together. That said, Cody clearly had some inner demons in him, knowing he felt alive every time he was beating up punks, and that would no doubt cause a strain on his relationship, which it done so. When Jessica cut ties with Cody, it put him in a slump. The fired up boy who defeated the Mad Gear gang was now aloof and indifferent to pretty much everyone and everything. Even his friendship with Guy didn't seem to matter, showing us his lack of emotion towards it. Cody just wasn't feeling anything anymore, and the little he did feel came from smacking some heads together. Any smile he wore appeared bittersweet or false. He wasn't happy, not really. His life lacked any direction, and although he seemed to have accepted this outcome, I doubt he was actually content with it subconsciously. Which is why by the time Street Fighter V takes place, when Haga has freed him from prison and shoved him into a role of responsibility, Cody hasn't turned it down. He knows that although the duties are boring, and although he completely zones out when his secretary is scheduling his day for him, this is a job he has to do. Why? Because it's giving his life purpose again. And not just any random purpose, but the same purpose he had when he began fighting in the streets all those years ago. To help make the city he loved a better place to live in. His smiles feel more genuine now, there's a ray of light shining out from him when he talks. Furthermore, even though he's retained the somewhat couldn't care less attitude that he got from being in prison, he knows that deep down he does actually care. He might air his secretary off and go missing for a bit, but at the end of the day, he'll come right back to his desk and do his job, knowing this is the right place for him to be. The aspect I find interesting about Cody's identity is his moral code, and how he often found himself at odd ends with it during these different arcs. Cody was good at fighting, and also believed in justice, and by pairing the two together he could go about claiming justice for his city by doing what he was good at. But what happens when he has achieved that justice? What does he do with his hobby then? Cody couldn't adapt to a peaceful life, so he continued fighting when there was nothing to fight. This in turn made him a criminal, the very same kind he had been battling against. His moral code was now up in the air, and no doubt he had begun questioning himself. What was the reason for combating criminals? Was it for justice, or was it just because he liked fighting? Part of him knew his moral code was legit, but because he had nothing else to live for, what point was there in proving anything to himself? Upon his release from prison and changing his life, his moral code appears once again, this time during his solo story arc, and it's at this point I think Cody finally understands himself. Zeku, a ninja and Guy's former mentor, approaches Cody with a business proposal. Recognizing Cody has his work cut out for him, Zeku suggests that Cody hire his services so that as a ninja he could work from the shadows to gain political information and strengthen Cody's position in the government. A helping hand of that sort would certainly grant Cody a lot more power to do the things he needs to do for Metro City, but he turns it down. Cody's moral code is fully intact at this point, recognizing that to do such underhanded tactics would make him no better than the crime he's trying to combat. If anything, I feel the overwhelming amount of confidence that we're seeing from Cody in Street Fighter V is that he's come to fully understand this moral code now. He's assured in what he feels is right and wrong, and he recognizes that his position as mayor cannot be compromised. This is too important to mess up, especially after he's been given a second chance to do something positive, and to that end, Cody seems determined to never let his code become corrupted again.
Importance.
With Cody now in a political position, it puts him on a higher tier of importance. His purpose for being within the Street Fighter universe is to govern over Metro City and protect it. He has a crucial role to uphold. This role was also a passing of the torch from Mike Hagar, who had been a very important character to the Final Fight series in general. To choose Cody as a worthy successor is considered very high praise, despite the two characters having their major differences over the years. Cody is also connected to Guy, as the two were old friends and training buddies right up until Cody got himself incarcerated. Despite his numerous attempts to reform Cody during his low period, Guy failed to get through to him. It has also been made apparent that over time, while their friendship has deteriorated, Guy still seems to care for him despite Cody's indifference to that kindness. For whatever reason, Cody is reluctant to patch things up with Guy and keeps him at bay whenever their paths do cross. If I'm being honest, I'm not really sure why Cody continues acting so cold towards him. It's actually the one thing about Cody I'm failing to understand. I mean, is it embarrassment on Cody's behalf due to his fall from grace? If so, Cody's never seemed embarrassed about it to anybody, so it can't be that. Maybe Guy was too preachy and Cody just wanted to waste away in his prison cell for the rest of his life. I don't know. It just strikes me as odd that he would push Guy away when the dude has not really done anything wrong to him. In any case, of all the duos in the Street Fighter universe, I'm hoping these two will get a chance to reconnect and settle their differences. They made a good team and it would be a shame to leave things so detached between them. I'm never quite sure if I should be taking the endings for Street Fighter V's arcade mode as legit canon because some of it does seem incredibly far-fetched, but in Cody's case, I would like to point out the inclusion of him keeping a photo on his desk of the good old days. If this is canon, and I'm hoping it is, the fact that he still holds on to those memories means there's a part of him that still cherishes the bonds he made, and maybe in time he will rebuild those bridges. Also, while we're talking about characters connected to Cody, who the hell is this Marlo girl? Like, she's Cody's secretary, I get that. She handles business and tries to keep Cody focused, which is fine, but I mean, what's up with her presentation? Like, anytime you see her, she's shrouded in mystery. Angles have her placed in shadow or obstructed by an object, so we never get a solid look at her face. Why is that? What's with all this sinister shit all of a sudden? Is she working for the Illuminati? I bet she's working for the Illuminati. We're all working for the Illuminati. Blanca's bloody working for the Illuminati. Before I wrap up this section, I'd like to take a few minutes to highlight something I considered quite symbolic regarding Cody's overarching storyline. There's a theme here that I'm not sure was intentional by Capcom, but regardless, it seems to have spoken volumes to me, and that is the theme of addiction. From the start to the finish, Cody's entire storyline has been about succumbing to his addiction, destroying his life because of it, and then reforming and doing his best to keep that habit in check. Every step in his journey documents another part of this. He began street fighting because he enjoyed it but would make excuses for why he was doing it, and before he knew it he couldn't stop himself. This addiction ruined his life. He got put in prison because of it, his love interest left him because of it, he became depressed because of it, and the only time he ever felt alive was when he was succumbing to the craving again. He would break out of prison just to go fight people, and as long as they were scratching that itch for him, he'd feel happy for a short while. It takes a big deal and a lot of work to help reform somebody. Hagar puts Cody in a role that forces him to fix up because of the duties it requires. Being put in that position, it's almost like Cody is going through some sort of detox. And yeah, while Cody might slip away on occasion to punch another face in, showing us that the habit will crop up from time to time, he's not dependent on it now. The addiction is not controlling him or his actions, he's able to freely make his decisions without succumbing to the habit, and in turn, he's become a new man.
Conclusion.
Cody has been here for a long time, and with each passing era he gained a new curve to his arc. He's evolved over the years and has grown a really stable storyline for himself. Each chapter has dealt with numerous themes such as heroism, success, addiction, self-destructive behaviour, and then taking a pathway to improvement and reformation. What I like about all of this though is Cody's character wasn't ruined at any point. Never did it feel like we were suddenly given a completely different character. It always felt like Cody. Despite the drastic turns in his story, he remained consistent. It just feels really nice to have a character in this universe who has had one hell of a rollercoaster ride but never lost his identity. That's rare to say for someone in this game series, and if you're asking me, I think he's one of the most successfully presented characters Street Fighter has within it. Yo, this episode was brought to you by these wonderful people supporting me on Patreon. Without their help, this show would not be able to continue. If you'd also like to support Who Dat, please check the link in the description. Any and all help would be appreciated. Cheers everybody.